Hi, I'm Lady Lex UK, and this is Asset Breakdown. This is where we look at media molecule assets, learn how they work, and help you develop your own logic so that you can put things into your own game that are unique to you. So we've gone to dream shaping, and there is a playlist called Creator Content. I'm looking for Ancient Temple Kit, which is here. And inside here is our Ancient Temple Checkpoint. This is the asset we're looking at today. As you can see, it is a flag on a stone base. I'm just going to pop that down. I've put some coloured dots on my world so that I can tell which checkpoint is which, because otherwise it's just, you can get easily disorientated, especially when they all look the same. Right, so let's have a look and see how this all works. So first of all, for a checkpoint, you have our mannequin here, and you've got to make sure that your mannequin is able to respawn on death. So let's just check that out. That's inside the puppet logic, inside the controller logic, which is this orange one here. And you can see here on the controller sensor, there is a tag on the side called is dead, and that's wired all the way up and around into respawn. Now that's a default wire that's always there, along with the circle button which links into the depossess. So these two wires are always on your controller sensors as default, so this should be here. So unless you've unwired this, this will absolutely work. So what happens? Let's possess our mannequin. If I was to die, let's just kill myself by throwing myself off. There we go. I respawn. That's it. I reappear in the world, and I will reappear if there are no checkpoints at the position that my mannequin was placed at the beginning of the level. So in this case, it's in the middle. However, these are checkpoints. So if I was to walk over to this checkpoint, it pops up like that, makes a pleasing noise. This is now an active checkpoint. So if I was to die now, instead of respawning at the center, it's spawning on the stone slab of this particular flag. And if I was to walk over to here and activate this one, even if I fall off over here, this is the active flag now, and I'm respawning on the blue one. Now, you will notice that although this is the active flag, that red one over there is still upright and flying away. This is how this checkpoint works. It's a one-shot thing, so it's either activated or never been activated, and there is no indication at all about which is the active flag. You can't tell from an upright flag whether this is the active flag or this is the active flag, and there's no sound effect or anything that tells you you've reactivated a flag either. Now we're going to have a look at the code and see how all this works. So we might rebuild the code for this so that it will deactivate and activate. But anyway, let's have a look at the code. Now, I would imagine that quite a lot of new people to Dreams are thinking that a good way of learning how to make microchips is to look at media molecules microchips. And in some respects, that's a great idea because they're very good at labeling things, and obviously their microchips they work. They've released them as part of a kit, so it should be a good example of how to make something. However, there are different developers in Media Molecule that have made these assets, and some developers have different styles to others, and some developers make things in a very overly engineered way, and it can be a bit scary looking at some of these microchips because they can be quite full. So if we look over here, here is our checkpoint logic. I fiddled about with this one actually. It normally looks like that. Whoops. So we've got a node floating out. You can see it over here. You've got a node here and there, and a microchip there. If I open it up, you can see we've got a couple of pages. So let's open them all up. So this checkpoint logic looks really complex. There's lots of gadgets in here. And I should imagine you're looking at this and thinking, oh my goodness, I've got a lot to learn. There's lots of gadgets that are needed to make a checkpoint. I don't really know where to start. But don't panic, because the logic inside this particular checkpoint is a lot more complex than you actually need to make a checkpoint yourself. And just to prove it, I'm going to close this down, come out of it. Let's make a really, really simple checkpoint. I'm going to make one here. I'm just going to make a little tall cylinder. I'm going to put a microchip on the cylinder. And then I'm going to make a checkpoint. And this is the trigger zone for the checkpoint. And you can see in the center is a little arrow pointer here. And this is where the player is going to respawn. Now, unfortunately, you have a situation where the trigger zone and the respawn point are connected together. The respawn point will always be in the center of the trigger zone if you use the trigger zone from the checkpoint itself. I wish they were separate. I don't know why they've designed it this way. It is a little awkward. If you wanted the respawn point to be a little bit more forward than the actual zone around here, then you'd have to use another trigger zone. But we won't worry about that. This is how it is. It's going to be put in there. And this pointer here will show you which way your player is going to face. So I'm going to have him facing that red checkpoint there. Okay. So then I'm going to need a keyframe. This is going to act as an indicator that I've activated the checkpoint. So I'm going to go into here and I'm just going to put a little glow on our checkpoint. Then I'm going to wire the currently active into that glow. And that's it. 2 gadgets. Let's see it working. So I'll go over to it. There you are. It's activated our checkpoint if I was to die. I've respawned. There's no sound effects or anything like that. It is a very, very simple effect. But there you are. I've respawned and I've respawned front facing that red checkpoint, which is what I wanted. Okay, it's as simple as that. 2 little gadgets, that's all you need to make a checkpoint. So don't think that when you open up a media molecule asset on what is supposedly a simple thing and see loads of gadgets, panic thinking I'm never going to learn dreams, it's too complicated. Quite often these assets have a lot more gadgets in them that is strictly necessary to actually build something like this. Anyway, so there's our checkpoint. Let's have a look at the code. Right, start off with, we can see there are 2 chips. There's our checkpoint logic and something called just spawned. This is a node gadget. And it's linked, if I open this up, that node gadget there is wired into the just spawned on our checkpoint gadget. So what this does here, it just gives you an opportunity to wire some other things from this particular checkpoint that's separate from the logic of the checkpoint itself. So you can wire this up to, let's say you had a platformer with a collapsing bridge. If your player dies and respawns back here, it's because he's fallen off the collapsing bridge. So you need to reset the bridge otherwise you won't be able to get across. So that's what this is for. You can wire up your logic that will reset the bridge and put it back before it collapsed. It's that sort of thing. That's what it's for. Now, they've used this node gadget to do that. So it's very visible. And there's two gadgets. So you've got this gadget and this gadget. As you can see, whoops, because it's linked in to checkpoint gadget, it's created a little tag on the outside of this. If I was to delete that node, though, it disappears. Now, I don't think you need an extra gadget. I don't understand why it's there. I would have put it in there. Now, when you close this down, you'll see that little tag there is on the side of our checkpoint logic, and you can wire things in to that. There we go. You don't need that extra node. That's slightly superfluous. It really depends, I suppose, on style. It's all a style thing. If you want lots of gadgets and you think that's better for visibility, then that's fine. Personally, I like it all a bit more compact, so I've shoved that in there. Right. Next, let's have a look at our checkpoint logic. Okay. So there's our checkpoint gadget. Okay. So we've got wires coming out of currently active, and we've got wires coming out of just spawned. These are the two things that's going to happen animation wise, and all that is going to happen to our asset. And as you can see, that's where the player spawns. He spawns at the front of the this block, and there's our rather large area where you can activate the checkpoint. Okay, so we'll have a look at the first thing at the top of this particular page. And up here we have a timer. Now this is set to 0.1 seconds. It's a little timer. And this timer, when it's done its thing, activates this keyframe. This says hide directional guide. But as you see in brackets after it, it says empty. This keyframe doesn't do anything. It's empty. There's nothing in this keyframe. This timer activates an empty keyframe. So they didn't tidy up their code after they made this thing. Maybe they had some idea about what this was going to do. They had something else going on, but they didn't tidy up after themselves. So this and this does nothing. So we can delete these two, and it's not going to make any difference to the operation of our gadget at all. Bit of a shame that they left it there, but there you go. Next we have another node. This one says currently active, and they've stuck a flag thing on it. This just goes from the checkpoint into this node, and then into this other page, and into the flag activated animation. Because this is going from this checkpoint into a node and then out again, and it's only one wire, this is not strictly necessary either. You could have just wired currently active directly into this the same way and delete that. Okay, so you don't need that either. That can just have gone straight in. You don't actually need that. Next we have just activated. So when this has been just activated, this is a signal manipulator. This is creating a pulse. So this is going to do a one-off thing, a just activated pulse, 0.1 seconds, and 0.5 seconds fading off, and that goes into this keyframe. And again, we have an empty keyframe. It says pad glow. If we click on it, it does nothing. There's nothing. It's not linked to anything. This is another empty keyframe. So this signal manipulator is doing absolutely nothing because the keyframe it activates is empty. So another bit of untidiness, that we'll get rid of that. So we don't need that either. So now we're left with this signal manipulator. Again, exactly the same. It's creating a pulse. It's going from follow the wire. That's coming from just spawned. which is that bottom one there. And that is going into this node. And that is wired out to all of these. So this node is acting as a little a tidy, so that you haven't got lots and lots and lots of wires coming off of this or this. There they are there. It all looks nice and neat. So that's what that node is for. And then we've got all these objects. We're going to look at that in a minute. So that one's fine. That can stay put. And it's creating just a pulse to activate all of these things quickly on a pulse. Right, then we have a counter. This is also coming off of just spawned, so that could have been wired directly into there. It didn't need to come off of there, so we could have done that and delete that wire, so like that, or we could have put that in here and wired it off of that. But there we go. That's how I would have done it. And then we've got our spawn timer. Okay, so what happens here is we've got just spawned, goes into our timer. Our timer is then full. It starts off a 1 second's worth, and then it resets this while this is on. So for 1 second, this checkpoint camera pointing there is going to be activated. So this is going to take over from the camera inside the mannequin just for a second to orientate you towards the checkpoint, and that's what that does. Now we're left with just one chip inside this. I don't think you need it, so we'll put it in there. So now we've only got one page. Okay, we didn't really need that other page at all. This is all going to work perfectly fine without. Just to prove, let's go in. Which one are we amending? Now that I've said it, it's green one, isn't it? No. Which one did we amend? Blue, red one. Right, we amended the red one. Right, there we go. Up it pops. And there we go, we've spawned there. So everything I've just did, all those things that I've deleted, has made no difference to it. It still works. Okay, so now we've got just this one checkpoint logic to worry about. So what have we got? First of all, we've got the flag activated timeline. Let's have a look at that. So this is the animation that moves our flag up. So if I move this playhead, you can see there we are, the flag's going up. And you can hear the sound effects as well. There we are. So the stick here, this is set to keep changes. So once it's up, it's up. The flag, I think that just waves around a bit. And then you've got the leaf wobble, which is at the top of the thing. We've got some sound effects here, checkpoint, raise flag, and the mouse guitar sound. It won't play otherwise. The sound of the flag being activated. And that's it. Now this is a play once timeline, and that's the animation for moving the flag. Once this has done its thing, it then sets off a counter. This counter then sets off the flag idle animation. And if we look at this, it's a bit awkward. But there we go. You can't really see. Let's see if we can lift this up. There's a sort of movement with the flag so that it looks like it's blowing in the breeze. It's a bit hard to see when it's down and not up, but there we go. That's what it's doing, and it's doing it on a loop. So that's the flag idle for when it's up. Right, so this is just the just spawn code. Now this is a little bit more complicated. So when you just spawn, there's some special effects that happen. First of all, we've got emit particles. If I do that, preview invisibility, you can see there are the particles. Very bright particles, and they will just go zooming up like little dots. And they are emitted by this emitter. And if we see the angle, it's a bit hard to see with the, hang on, let's turn the particles off. There, it's going to appear there, and they're going to shoot up like that. Just emitted. They only have 6 seconds of lifetime. They're only going to emit one, and up it goes. So let's have a look and see it in action. That's it. Watch carefully. There we go. There's all the particles all going whoosh, and that's it. And it does it that once, and we're done. Okay, it only does it that one time. The first time you activate any flag in this particular code, that's what it does. Right, then we've got pad glow. Again, it says pad glow, but there is no glow on the pad. I'm not 100% sure what this is doing. It's doing something to the stick. It seems to be pulling the stick up. I'm not 100% sure what that keyframe does, to be perfectly frank. It certainly pushes it up. So that's what it's doing. There we go. Then we've got a respawn sound. That sound. Chung ching ching ching. And then we've got some fog that appears. And then, as we saw earlier, and we went through it, you've got this counter which turns on a checkpoint camera that runs for a minute, runs for a second, and then that's it. And that's what that is doing. Okay, so there we have it. It's not as complicated as it looks. Most of these things are to do with the special effects. But we do have a situation here where we have a flag that doesn't deactivate. So let's see if we can put in some deactivation. Okay, let's look at how we can change this into a checkpoint that will deactivate. The flag will go down when it's not the active flag. Right, now for some strange reason they've got currently active. Instead of going into the power of the animation, it's going into the playback speed, turning the playback speeds from 0 to 100, thereby turning it on. I really don't understand why they've done that. I'm just going to take that out. And instead I'm going to put a counter in. So now it goes currently active into a counter. That counter then goes into the power of our animation. Like so. Okay. Now I want one for not active. So I'll need a not gate. And I also want an AND gate, because what I don't want to happen is I don't want it to activate an animation if it's never been active before. So we're going to wire currently active into the not gate into the and this counterfall into there. So this will not activate unless it's already been active at least once. Okay, so then we put another counter in, and then this counter is going to activate our flag deactivation. And we're going to take out all the sound effects. I don't want it making any noise, and all I want to do really is just swap over the stick positions like so. We want to make that one not keep changes, and we want this one to keep changes, and I will just reduce the size of that to that. Okay, so that is activated on that counter. Right, so now we need to make these counters reset when we need to. So when this counter is full, we want to reset this counter, and when this counter is full, we want to reset this counter, and we also want to reset this counter when this one is full. And we also want to rewind these two. So when this is full, I'm going to restart that timeline, and when this is full, I'm going to restart that timeline. Now that should do it. Let's see. So we go to the red one, and it's activated, and then we'll go to the blue one. That's activated, and that red flag has now gone down. If we go back over here, it pops back up. Let's just check that it is active. Yes, it is. We have respawned on the red one. So we have created a deactivation on that flag. So having done that, we want all our flags to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete our other two flags and clone this one. Alright then, so we'll go to the green flag, and it's active. We'll go to the blue flag, it's active. The green flag goes down. We'll go to the red one, it's active. Blue flag goes down. There we are. Okay, so that's it for our checkpoint asset. I mean, obviously you can change how it looks by resculpturing and doing all sorts of things to it. I recommend you make your checkpoints yourself from scratch. They're not that hard to make. If you want further guides on how to make checkpoints really easily, then there is a tutorial that I made during early access that you can access. I'll put a link in the description. Otherwise, that's our breakdown of the ancient temple checkpoint. Hope that was useful and you learned some things. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in your dreams.